Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Crime Centric. This being a show where I talk about crime dramas that I watch. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of Mayor of Kingstown. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. Well, first and foremost, we had the whole situation at the beginning where we had that whole riot that straight up... it was a straight up riot in the yard, but also someone took advantage to... perform a hit, and we have Tim's nephew Sam. He's out in the tower and he ends up firing. At first when he shot someone, I was like, didn't you just shoot the... I was like, well, he's probably not prepared for that situation. That's why he's not supposed to be in the tower. I'm like, shouldn't someone else have taken that shot? But I guess it's like, right, if you're in that position. He thought he was trying to help, but yeah, he put three to the person who was getting stabbed. I was like, that's... Because at first I was wondering whether or not, like, the person he was aiming at was one of, like, the cops or something like that. But it's like, no, it was just a terrible situation all around. And now everybody's pissed because I love it. Mike's getting blown up. Bunny's calling him and he has to talk to Pete. And then it's just like one thing after another. It's like his phone didn't stop ringing. He saw the no caller ID. Hello, who is this? Is it Mike? Who's this? It's like, this is Iris. Immediately hangs up. And it's just like, no, I'm not about to deal with this. So he goes and talks to Bunny. Bunny's saying that basically, like, he's not the head honcho. He's a pretty big deal, but he's not, like, head honcho. And, like, the orders are trickling down that they gotta strike back. He's like, yeah, my boy. Not only did my boy get stabbed 15 times, he also got shot in the back 3 times. And, Mike's like, did he make it? It's like, no, he didn't make it. Got freaking stabbed 15 times and shot. It's like, no, he didn't make it. He's like, I'm sorry, but it's like... Because it's like, right, we're going to go after those guards. It's like, especially with the prison being on lockdown, that ain't going to happen. He is like, no. We're going to get them, but we're going to get them in the streets. Which Mike's like, you don't want to take this. It's like, yeah, you're powerful and stuff like that, but you do not want to go up against the guards and the police. You're going to be signing your own death warrant. But it's like, they did this the moment they made a deal with the devil and decided not to keep it up. It's like... Because this has been a powder keg ready to blow at any moment. Because the whole prison had to be put on lockdown after everything. Obviously, Tim's nephew, Sam, is getting transferred. Because you're like, why was he in the tower in the first place? Well, we did that to make sure that he was okay. So it's like, they can't put him anywhere. Because especially after this, his death warrant's even more secured. So it's like, no, we have to put him somewhere. So they're like, they suggested some places, release him or put him in like receiving or something like that. But... their boss is like, no, we're going to transfer him to the women's. It's like, yeah, but he'll get, like, if he can't stop himself from not sleeping with the inmates, then maybe we should just let him go now. So the only option is, boom, send him to the women's prison. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens on that front. Because I also feel like that could still backfire, because it could still be a situation of someone at that women's prison is connected to the people that want him dead, so he could still get got there. I feel like that's still a potentiality there, but maybe not. So, Mike's gotta, like I said, Mike is calming down every storm. He's telling Bunny, like, at least try and convince them to back down. He's like, I'll try and, like, do what I can in this situation. So, he immediately goes over to Pete, which he's talking to Pete about, like, why would you do that? And Pete's like, well, we had to. Like, the fact of the matter is, they do it to us, so we had to strike. Like, it was only, like, we've already got their lieutenants locked up, like, 3 of their lieutenants locked up in AGSAT, so it's like, we had to take the chance, because if we didn't, it made us look weak. So it's like, we were presented an opportunity, why not take it? It's like, yeah, but they don't want a war either, but it's like, right, if need be, we will take this to the streets, too. So Mike's like, don't do that, Pete. Do not do that either. This is, once again, everybody's ready to take this to the next level, wipe out the guards and stuff like that. So Mike's like, all right, I will get them to back down. Because I thought it was an interesting thing, because Pete was kind of like, oh man, Mike, you haven't been in long enough. You must have forgotten the rules. He was like, no, I remember the rules. And even then, Mike was saying, like, let me make this perfectly clear. I don't fucking work for you. You want something done, you ask, and then you pay like everybody else. And he was like, oh, I was completely wrong, Mike. You definitely remember how things work. And he's like, yeah. I also love your glass will be, the glass for the window will be here in a week. I'm like, oh, at least he had a decency to pay for that. I love that. It's like, oh, just nice little detail. And immediately had another stop off. Had to go see his boy Ed and talk to Ed about it. Which is like, you know, he's telling, it's like, I told you things would escalate to this point. He's like, yeah, they're talking about taking the street. He's like, and then Ed was almost like, no, then we'll remind them who runs. But it's like, you're talking about 3,000 criminals who believe themselves to be in the right because they are adhering to the deal that you made and you guys backtracked. So it's like, yeah, like, I told you SOBs not to make this deal, but you wanted it. Oh, you wanted it so bad, all you can see was red, and now we're in this situation. So it's like, right, he's like, you need to alleviate some of this pressure before it fucking pops. Because Ed was talking, like, going hard in a pain about kind of going after them, which I love that Mike's like, do you know what you sound like right now? A fucking convict. It's like, because he was saying, like, if we back down now, like, we have to keep pushing until they break. Because if we back out now after all this flexing, we're going to look weak. And it was like, literally the same conversation he had with Pete. Basically, I'm like, man, that is, once again, just playing into the whole fact, it's like, there's not just 3 gangs in that prison, there's 4. Because the guards are a gang of their own, you know? So it's like, yo. So we'll see whether or not alleviating the pressure is going to help, or maybe it's already spilled over too much that even when you alleviate some of that pressure, because we do see it at the end that everybody's calmed down, like it doesn't seem like there's as much of an issue. So it still could be an issue that could come arising later on. We'll see, but I think the storm has kind of calmed down at the prison, the way it just, like they showed you later on, person passing out the books, it just seemed like no one's rioting, like everyone's cool, everyone's calm. It's like, all right, we're all good for now, but that kettle's always ready to boil over. So the real kick in the teeth in this episode is the Iris situation, which even Joseph's like, she's not dancing. He's like, I don't know what to tell you. Craig's like, she's hypnotizing them. The fact of the matter is she's got the crowd, like, she doesn't even have to dance. She just does that. She sits down, then with them, like, they're on a date, and, like, they pay up. I mean, she made $4,000 on a Tuesday. Like, come on. But also, it's like, Joseph's like, this isn't her job, it's her cover. She needs to actually be getting back to her job. And it's like, all right. But he was like, Craig was like, just not her face. And was like, oh, don't do that. Please don't do that. And Joseph proceeds to do that because it's like, oh, Milo believes Mike must be gay if he's not, like, sleeping with you. And I was like, he's not gay. It's like, well, he must be because he hasn't tried to have sex with you. So it's like, right. But Milo thinks that, he prefers his angels with broken wings, and then proceeds to punch her hard in the stomach, took a hammer to her hand and broke her hand. You're like, Jesus Christ, said, don't scream either. It's like, and I think this speaks volumes about the conversation she has later on with Mike, where it's like, the fact is that she was able to hold that in, I think speaks volumes that it's like, no, she's been down that rodeo like too many times of being not screaming. Like that's the most heartbreaking. Like that scene, that before she even had that conversation later on, that was a key sign. I'm like, you've been in that sadly in that situation too much where you weren't supposed to scream, you just like kept it inside. It's like, you know. And so obviously Iris shows up. Obviously Mike is it's the whole Joseph situation, and it's just like, right, God, I forgot how that went. Right, it's like, right, go with Rebecca. He even came up with a cover story because it's like, you need to go to the hospital. She's like, why don't you take me? It's like, Rebecca needs to take you because if I take you, it's going to lead to a whole bunch of questions because they're going to assume I did it. So I'm going to get questioned for 6 hours. You're going to get questioned for even longer. And then eventually they're going to start asking other questions that she's like, I'm not going to say I have nothing to tell. You have so much to tell because of your line of work. The people it's like, they're going to push on that if they find, probably like eventually they'll get to talking and they'll find out that you're one of Milo's girls. And then it's going to be like, you know too many skeletons in the closet. So. But Mike decided he's going to handle this. He calls up Ian and Kyle and goes up into Joseph, and he's like, oh, and proceeds to beat the ever-living shit out of him again. I love it. He's just like, it's almost that thing of like, why do you make me do this to you over and over again? He's like, you know what insanity is? Doing the same thing over and over and over and expecting a different result and just like beating the ever-living shit out of him. It's just like, I thought last time would have been enough. And he's just like, tell Milo if he wants to send me a message that you are not going to be happy about continuing to be the messenger. I was like, dude. I was like, and like for you get that surge of like, yeah, get it, you bastard. This is what you deserve. But then like Mike and Ian are like, what the fuck was that? He was like, that was a bar full of felons. Ain't nobody gonna say anything about you guys being there. Besides, I also had to make sure that you guys were there so that no one would kill me. And Kyle's like, they still might. Mike, Jesus. He's like, I owe you one. And Ian's like, no, Mike, you fucking owe us 3. So it's like, yeah, that kind of an asshole move on his part, making him complicit in that, especially considering like the situation they're dealing with after the pizzeria thing 2 episodes ago. So I guess that's kind of resolved, which Kyle got an earful from his mom the moment he come home, because she's like, she knows the procedure of this. I guess her dad must have been a cop or something like that for her to know the ins and, she also worked in the criminal, like she teaches criminals. She's like, as she says, I teach the ones who lost the war. But essentially, she's chewing him out because it's like, don't be around Mike. Because he was like, I think he is being truthful. Like, yeah, I should be like in my situation after everything. But it's like, right, they are short-staffed with everything. So yeah, he's being truthful there. But she's like, you went to see Mike. It's Michael. It's like, you only talk to me when you're around Michael. And the fact is that you need to stay away from him. Your brother is a criminal. It's like, yeah, but what Mike does is good. It's like, no, he thinks what he does is good. He is a criminal. He thinks like a criminal. He acts like a criminal. And that's a sad thing that she says that, though, because it's like, wow. Because she almost talks about him like that ain't her child, But it's like, we don't know the long history. Like, we know this whole system of the mayor was created by their dad, and we know that Mitch took it over, but that's why I'm curious. Like, I don't know if they ever talked about what Mike. Do correct me in the comments down below. I don't think they've ever talked about what Mike actually did to land in prison. But like, just because you are a bad guy, like that's always that complicated thing about that vigilante level justice. Look at the Punisher. He's not really. He's an anti-hero because he's not the greatest example of heroism, but he tries to do the right thing, and I think Mike does too. Like, in his own way, he is trying to keep a balance. It's like, because of this whole, I didn't ask for the system. I inherited the system, and not because Mitch passed it to me. It's because, like, I needed to take this job because, like, but, like, his mom's argument will probably be like, no, you love the power and all. Well, no, because she even said, like, right, Mitch did it because he loves the power. She's like, honestly, I don't know why you do it, because I think Mike does believe, like, no, I am doing good with this. Like, if I don't do what I do, there will be chaos. Like, I am the art, but it also puts you in a self-important position. But I think Mike's applying what he probably learned in prison, that hierarchy, how things run, how things operate, how people think, how people operate, and applying it in this situation. So, but obviously his mom is like, the thing is, being around your brother, he will get you killed. And the fact is that your child will be born without a father, and that means the moment your child comes into this world, if you die before your child's even born, your child's already lost the war, because that already sets your child on that road of like, right, my father was killed in the line of duty. Probably you're definitely on the wrong foot in life. Not trying to say that everyone is, but that's what his mom is trying to be indicative. He's just like, good night, Mom, and it's just like, because I think he sees where she's coming from, but also it's like, you want me to turn my back on my brother, especially because it's not like it's just the criminals, the cops take advantage of Mike's position too. So it's like, but it's like, she wants him away from all that because he's like, it's a freaking war out there. And she's like, it's always been a war out there. Just the scenery just looks a little different now. It's all it is, but it's always stayed the same. So, but after the whole Joseph situation, Mike calls up Rebecca. He's like, all right, where'd you take her? I took her to your place. He was like, what? No. It's like, she doesn't have anyone else to go. It's like, well, not at my place. She's like, fine, I'll take her to my place. No. She will spin you too. I'm on my way. So she hasn't gone to sleep because of her ribs and everything. And I thought it was like the most heartbreaking scene where she was just like, you gave me a year. It wasn't even a month before I got torn to pieces. And he was like, no. This isn't torn to pieces. Like, you'll know when it happens, and it's like, it's only a matter of time now after all of this, because Rebecca was saying, like, not Rebecca, Iris was saying, like, because he was like, have you ever been hit before? And she was like, no. He was like, the fact is, in your line of work, he just found that hard to believe. And she's like, judges don't hit. He's like, some do. And he's like, what about your parents? Did they ever hit you? And she's like, they love me. My dad was this. My mom was... He's like, all right, don't tell me what you want to believe to be true. Tell me the truth. And she's like, my dad raped me when I was 11. I was like, Jesus Christ. My mom walked in once, closed the door. You're like, my dad committed suicide at 15 and then my mom kicked me out. You're like, Jesus. Oh, God. I'm kind of glad I watched this early enough that I can just watch other stuff to kind of cleanse the palate. Because I'm like, that's horrendous, dude. That sucks. You know? So now it's a situation of like, Mike needs to get her away from all of this, but there's no easy out to this. The only way she's going to be fine is like, right, you know enough dirt that you can get witness protection, because Milo's not going to be too happy, like, especially with that return message, you're not doing what you're supposed to. It's like, yeah, that's not going to end well. So he ends up saying that he's going to wait in his office, and Rebecca's like, well, I'm going to go home while, like, Iris sleeps on the couch, and he's like, no, I need you to stay here with her. And Iris is like, what, you still don't trust me? He's like, no, not even a little bit. It's like, yeah, knows. I guess because he has the benefit of knowing this world enough to know, like, no, I cannot be in a room alone with you. So after that's all said and done, they end up talking to the feds, which really quickly. Well, for one, they end up rolling through all the people that she slept with, and it turns out it's like, oh, okay, and we're up to 26. And then there was a guy over there, like one of the FBI agents, it's like laughing and stuff like that. And Mike is like, what the fuck is your deal? Like, you're over here laughing at a victim and then all of this. It's just, and the guy starts stepping to Mike, and the other two are like, hey, get him to, like, get out. And she's like, I'm sorry if he offended you. And Iris is like, he did, you know? They proceeded to take pictures of Iris's wounds. Now, this is what kind of threw me for a loop, was when she was like, you have to strip. She's like, no, I don't have bruises anywhere else. It's like, I need to take pictures of your whole body. I was like, is that really, like, legitimately? I'm you know, because I've never watched any shows that have really ever covered that, but I'm like, do you really have to, because I was like, why though? That just seems so invasive, you know? But I guess it's also, and this is just pure speculation on my part, I'm assuming it's because if you just isolate just pictures of the bruises itself, the argument could be used like, well, it's meant to look worse than it is. So you have to get full body picture of the whole body so you can understand like how much those bruises make up of her body. I guess. I don't know. Or maybe it's supposed to be indicative of like, right, how do we know these wounds are from something else? Like, if you, like, I guess it's supposed to keep the consistency of her. I don't know, it just seems so invasive getting her to like, if she was wearing like a bra and stuff under that, would they have asked her to take that off too? I mean, it's not like they asked her to completely strip, but they had her turning, and then she had bruises on her butt, and she's like, oh, I think that's from when he pushed me. And I was like, I wonder was that something else, or was that related? I don't know. Maybe it was, but she was able to put her dress back on afterwards. But then Milo calls, it's like, cool. So, Mike, I need you to meet me at the park across from the prison in there in an hour. So it's like, how's that guy going to talk to you? Oh, right. Really quickly, I love that. It's like, right, you need to go to the New York website, because they were asking her to go back to New York because with what they have, it's not enough to prosecute, but if she can wear a wire, and Mike's like, she can't go to New York. Milo wants her here, and she can't go there without his permission. So it's kind of like, there's no way to make this happen. So it's like, we're going to have to bring in New York on this. It's like, cool. Okay, so when it's all said and done, she's like showing them a picture, and it's like, oh yeah, him too. And she's like, him too what? I was told to have sex with him too. And it's like, oh cool, so another FBI agent. And I guess that was supposed to be a little foreshadowing of like, right, Milo, well, there's at least people that are in Milo's pocket, or at least, you know, to some extent. It's like, cool. And when the dude was like, now this just got more interesting. And then Milo proceeded to call. Timing, interestingly enough, but he shows up, Mike shows up at a park. It's like, how is Milo going to make this happen? He has one of his other girls show up. Her name is Candace. And it's like, right, talking to Milo on the phone. And so he's like, I need a favor. He's like, I'm not doing you any favors, Milo. Especially like after this situation. He's like, all right, like if you do this for me, you get to keep Iris. And he was like, he's like, all right, if she's not your style, maybe Candace will fit you. He's like, I'm not interested in a pet, Milo. It's like, all right, but the fact of the matter is, I will find, he's like, you won't find her. He's like, I will, because he's like, if you don't do this, I will pluck every feather from her, Mike. Everyone, and I will send you back to Scalp. He's like, you'll never find her. And it's like, all right, Candace, show him. And then she showed, and it's like, oh, he puts trackers in them. You're like, Jesus. So he knows exactly where she is. So he calls up Rebecca. It's like, look, are the cars still here? Is that asshole cop outside? And she's like, no. I was like, he's like, okay, I need you to turn left and run. She's like, what? Run. I was like, did they put a bomb there or something? Like, what the hell is that? So the cavalry arrives. They check the place out. No bombs or stuff. They go inside. The 2 FBI agents that were sitting with Iris are dead. Asshole cop is one of Milo's guys. Like, I guess, like, he got called in to get this done. Like, either Milo called in that particular FBI agent that she talked about sleeping with, and he passed down the word, or just that asshole cop was there on purpose because it's like last time. That's why I was wondering why he was tagging along. Like, cause like last time, like, they dealt with Mike, it was just those two, and it's like, yep. Iris is gone, and then the moment Mike turns, he sees on the wall every feather. You know, it's like, right. Because that's the thing, too, like, because for Mike, he couldn't understand. He's like, what is he doing? Like, why go this far? And it's like, Ian's like, oh, he's a madman. Oh, he's evil, yes, but he's not the madman. This is all calculated. Because I'm like, what is such a big deal that you go to such extreme lengths to get, like, you think if you couldn't get it before, Mike has made his point twice now, that you think, I'd assume this has to connect to that $200,000 that he was trying to get Mitch and Mike to deliver to him before, that ended up getting stolen, right? So I'm assuming like that was part of a larger play. I have no idea what it is, but I guess he's up to something big, and that was part one of something, or maybe he's just had to pivot because of it. It's like, right, if I don't have that money, I'm gonna need Mike to do something for me. Like, it must be really, really big for him to go to such extreme lengths. So now he has no choice. Now the question, once again, the problem is, I'm like Mike, still kind of don't trust Iris. That's why I'm like, I still don't know if this part of the manipulation, or whether this is, she does seem sincere, but it could be playing into the whole, it's going to come back around with her being like, I told you I was stronger than you thought. Because even Rebecca was like, at the story, it's like, oh, your girl can act like, even I started to believe the story, and I know it's BS, you know? So, the, like, concocted story that they came up with, well, Mike came up with, just to make sure that the police don't ask too many questions type of thing. So, it's definitely going to be interesting to see where the next episode takes us going forward with all of this. But really, that's all I'm going to talk about. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day, and goodbye.